Alright guys and gals, welcome back to part 3. Got the tank cleaned up. Now we're going to put everything back together, and then maybe in the next video we can see if it'll run. Keeping our fingers crossed on that one. If it'll run on its own with its own fuel supply. That will be the test. So this isn't super complicated. We're going to finagle this little rod in here. This little spring goes on in the same hole, and as I mentioned in a previous video, that is simply to take up the slack and the linkage so that it doesn't surge. We have our little washers. They're going to go on here and here. Put our 10mm bolts back on. I like to put everything on by hand first and then tighten it down with my tools. That way I know I'm not stripping anything out. And this is the fun part, trying to get this last one all the way tight. Gonna go ahead and see if we can turn it a little bit with some needle nose, and then possibly get another half a turn on it with our wrench. There it is. There's that extra half a turn I was hoping for. Unfortunately, I haven't been able to get a socket in there, but that should work. Doesn't have to be super tight, just needs to be tight enough. Let's put just a smidge of penetrating oil in here, since we weren't able to take this apart since the butterfly is pressed on. This will hopefully penetrate and lubricate this action so that we don't have trouble choking and unchoking it. I haven't done anything with this, as long as we keep the fuel up in the gas tank, which we're going to definitely do for now, since the gas tank was extremely dirty. And when I say extremely dirty, I mean extremely dirty. This is what came out of it: chunks and chunks of rust and nastiness. This is literally the worst fuel tank I've ever seen. But we can't get a replacement, we can't use an external, so we're gonna cross our fingers, hope we cleaned it out good enough, and give it another shot. Maybe it'll get its second lease on life. So this goes here. I'm gonna do the easy part first. And once I get this in place, we can throw this bolt down in the bottom to hold it in place while we start our screws. Alright, so now that's started, we have some screws. I'll usually give these a quick cleaning if I can find my wire brush. There's one. This isn't critical, but these do go down into the gas tank, and there's just no point in having bolts that are all nasty. Makes it harder to put them in and harder to get them back out later, and they can possibly contaminate our fuel. The way this is set up also makes it easier to seal them when they're more cleaned up and not all dirty. Should have done this before I brought you guys back, but it is what it is. We're just going to throw these in here. Then we'll run them down with our screwdriver and just get them snug. Don't have to be super tight, but you just want it tight enough so if you jostle this thing, the gas won't leak everywhere. But likely it's going to leak out of the fill hole anyways. The gasket on the cap is pretty old, still intact though, surprisingly. I noticed this is adjustable if you ever really needed to. I don't think we're gonna mess with that. Now that those are snugged up, I missed something. We'll get back to that. We're gonna tighten this bolt here. Run it down by hand to save us some time. That's snug. Our choke goes here, and it actually is supposed to go under this screw. So we got to take this screw back out. Thankfully, it's the easiest one to get to. Throw this choke back in here. It gets lined up with the other screw in the carburetor. And now we have our choke. We're always going to start it cold on choke and then pull it off as it warms up. This is our gas cap, which, as I mentioned, could use a little love. We're going to clean it up a little bit, maybe spray it with some carb cleaner, pop this gasket off of it, which has come off voluntarily multiple times, and clean it out real good before we stick it back together. But the point of the story is, we're reassembled. Just put the gas cap back on. See you guys next time.